Hi guys, let's get started. The decorative soldering part 2 is the next video after part 1, of course. So if you haven't seen part 1, please watch that video because it will show you how to put your decorative soldering notebook together, and that's the basis for these classes, is that notebook. And you'll use it over and over again to practice on. So go ahead and make it. Go over there, go back, look at it, and come back here and join us for part 2. So we're going to get started, and we're going to go ahead and clean up our notebook, but because it's been sitting for a couple months and we haven't done anything with it, and it's oxidized, so you can see what that oxidation looks like. That's from just letting your notebook sit. It's not been covered, it's not been patinaed, it's not been polished. I might have even left flux on it. I don't even know what I did, but I go back, always go back, steel wool, then your baking soda and detergent and water mixture will clean it right up. I like to wear gloves with this, not because this is toxic, but because you might have a few little burrs and little pieces of solder and things like that stuck in when you're rubbing your hand around on it. You know, it's just easier to keep clean. So I'm wearing gloves here. I wear gloves throughout this video on different sections of the video. So the importance of cleaning is to remove all that flux, so everything new that we do will adhere correctly and we'll get the bead that we want. And you can see, even though I've scoured that one line, it didn't remove all the patina, so I can go back and patina that again and it'll be a beautiful black. But for now, I'm not worried about that. I just want to get these other beads cleaned up and ready to go. So I've got a couple of basic beads there, and that's what we're going to use. I'll let that dry overnight and come back the next day and get started. So here we are the next day. We're finished with the copper foil, finished with the roller. Most important part of this is your rheostat, your 60-40 solder, and your flux. And we use Ruby Flux. And we set our soldering iron for the hammered texture. We're going to set that soldering iron at 85%. So whatever you normally solder at, turn it down 15%. Start there. It's a good start. Make sure your tip is clean. And then to achieve this background, it mimics pebbles, sand, and dirt. It's very unique and makes an ideal aesthetic on vase caps and lamp bases. But what you want to do is generously flux that basic bead. Tap it quickly, move around the seam. If sharp peaks are there, reflux it, try again, and raise the temperature 5%. If the texture melts away, lower your temperature 5% on your soldering iron. It's very important to have a rheostat when you're doing decorative soldering. Gently tap the corner of the soldering iron and tap the seam so the indentations are sparsely distributed. Then go back and fill it in and repeat as needed until you get a heavily textured surface or the texture that you desire. So remember, you start with a base bead. Your tip size is 1/8 inch. Your solder is 60-40 and your temperature is at 85%. So there is the texture. Kind of looks like bark, but to me it also looked like flowers, almost like morning glories. So you know, you do these things and then you're like, okay, I think I want to do something else to that. So immediately I thought of, wouldn't it be pretty if you could replicate the look of flowers on a lamppost? So what I did is I added the bamboo texture on top of the hammered texture, and I call that our flower post texture. And I think that would look really cute in a window with the right perspective, and that would be, you know, the flowers on the top of the flower post. So that was our second. Now the third texture was the most difficult for me, and that is the pearl texture. And with the pearl texture, you add tiny drops of solder onto a basic bead. The pearls are highly decorative. They are primarily used to decorate wire, loops on sun catchers, and knobs and legs on jewelry boxes. And when clustered together, they really resemble gravel. Drop tiny drops of solder onto your basic bead. If the pearls flatten, lower the temperature by 5%. Don't hold the iron too close to the basic bead. If the pearl doesn't stick, just barely touch that basic bead when you're dropping off the solder. And then if it flattens, you know you're too hot. Pearl sizes will vary according to your tip size and the amount of solder that you put on your on your iron. So right here, this was the most difficult thing for me. As you can see, I'm having difficulty. I can't even tell that my tip is dirty, and one of the most important things in working with this decorative soldering is to keep your tip clean. So as I was doing, this was towards the end of the video, and as I was doing this, I realized that I wasn't having good eye-hand coordination, and I wasn't seeing correctly. And lo and behold, I went to the eye doctor, and he said, yeah, you've got some problems with your eyes. We can fix that, and so I'm having eye surgery soon, and I hope not to have that problem anymore. So I struggled through this. I made lots of dots. I went back. I tried to fix it. I got frustrated. I almost threw in the towel. I was a mess. I got so, I don't know, anxious about it. I kept going back and trying to get these little tiny beads even, but I just couldn't do it. And I even got so close to my work that I realized I was inhaling all those fumes, and I had to just walk away. I had to walk away. I had to regroup. I had to rethink. And really, towards the end, it wasn't that bad. So we could just learn from my mistakes. Please, learn from my mistakes. If you're not keeping your iron tip clean, this is what's going to happen. Here I thought, well, maybe I'll do something fancy down here. Well, that didn't work either. So I wound up erasing this whole entire thing. So let's just move ahead. And yeah, that was pretty ugly. And the whole thing was ugly. And then I said, well, the heck with that. I erased it. And if you go back to the soldering video, the first one we did, you'll find out how to erase things. So you can see it does turn out well, and but here we go. We're going to do something different. We're going to jump in. We're going to do this starfish. So I just pulled out some sun catchers we were working on because I said, you know what? We really need to do something. We've been doing the decorative soldering. Let's add it to a little piece. Let's add it to a little starfish. So I thought this would be easy. I'll add texture around the middle. Then I'll put a little gem in the middle or a little blob in the middle, and so that's what I did. I added this to it. And as you can see, tack solder first. There's the little pearls that I added. You can see they're all different sizes, but it doesn't really matter with this. You know, it doesn't matter. It's just a little decoration that we're going to put on it. And I needed to add something in the middle. So I decided a little blob might be pretty. I picked out a real pretty little orange blob, and I foiled it, and I proceeded to try to attach it to this sun catcher. And as you can see, I'm having bukus of problems, and it didn't attach, and I was very frustrated. Again, I was very frustrated. So I almost gave up here. I was like, well, let's call it a day. And then I said, no, I'm going to proceed. I'm going to find something else. I know I have something around here that I can do that's much better than this. And so that's what I did. I dropped that idea and I moved on. So there you go. Get rid of it. So here you can see the decorative soldering notebook in process. And I went to the back of the shop and I said, okay, we've got to have something back there that I can use for the starfish. So I went back, I went through my stash, and lo and behold, there you go. And I found the perfect little piece. It was kind of cool because I forgot that these little lamp parts were still in the back in that little jar, and it worked out perfect. So it doesn't really matter what kind of metal you're going to add to your lamp or to your sun catcher or to your panel. What matters is that the metal does not melt. That the metal, so you can test that metal, make sure it won't melt. But Pot metal will hold up to most anything. So these are pot metal. I just copper foiled them with the 1/4-inch foil. I copper foiled them and then added it to my piece. So that's pretty straightforward. Add the copper foil around the bottom where you're going to solder it, and then just tack solder it and to your piece. And there you go. There it is. And so I proceeded to tack solder it, and I really enjoyed it. It was a fun process. I learned a lot. I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about decorative soldering. And I want to continue doing this because I would like to get good at it, and I'd like to find new applications for it. So if you guys come up with a great application for a decorative soldering technique, please let us know. Send us a comment on this video. If you like our videos, please subscribe. I do want to thank you all for watching this video. It's not finished yet, so don't go away. But I do want to thank you for watching it because it means a lot to us. We enjoy teaching and we enjoy watching you learn and watching you succeed. And that's what we're here for. We're here to help you succeed in the craft of stained glass. So as you can see, we added the solder. Or I added the solder to the sun catcher, and there you go. Okay, that's the finished sun catcher. That's the pearl texture that I went back and hammered a little bit. So there's the pearls. There's more pearls. As you can see, the bamboo in the first row. And like I say, this was a lot of fun. It piqued my interest. There's bamboo a little bit wider with a small gap between, more like a rope. So don't be afraid to practice these textures, but make your own. Experiment and play and make your own because it's fun, I promise. And we'll see you next time for a decorative soldering video. Thanks so much for watching. We appreciate it.